Hello everyone, back to today's first video, going to the May 2017 month-ahead forecast. For today's first video, later on we'll have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. So we'll start off with a quick review of last month's forecast for April. We'll do the May forecast, looking at CFS V2 and Beige Climate Centre models, and then at the end we'll have a sneak peek at June. So just to review April first of all. So the GasWeather's April forecast was for a milder than average month, but with a slightly lower deviation compared to the months before it. So we thought it'd be above average, but not as warm as the preceding months in terms of the anomaly to average. We also predicted a drier than average April, but with the chance of a more unsettled spell sometime around the middle part of the month. Well, the central temperature for April has been released. I don't think we have the full stats yet for the whole month, for the whole of the UK. But in the CET region, we've come out at 8.9, an anomaly of just 1 degree above average. So, although it was a little bit milder than average, it's lower than the anomaly we had in February, which is over 2 degrees above average, and March, which is 3 degrees above average. Very warm March indeed. So I think that side of the forecast has gone quite well. We've also had quite a dry month, a very dry month actually, and probably a little bit drier than the forecast anticipated, because we didn't really get that wet spell through the middle part of the month. So that sort of thing is perhaps not quite as good. Okay, we did go for a drier than average month. We have come out with a drier than average month. But in terms of the temperature, I think that side of things have gone quite well. So milder than average month, but not as warm as the months before. Overall, I don't think it's been too bad a forecast from GasWeather's for April at this time. So, cracking on with May, and these are the 700 millibar height anomaly, this is 700 millibar height anomaly chart from the CFS V2 for May, and we find we've got above average heights here up to the north and northeast of the country, and below average heights down to the southwest. Now, May is always one of the harder months to forecast of the year, perhaps the hardest month in many respects, because it tends to have very weak westerlies. It's not a particularly Atlantic-driven month. The westerlies are usually at their weakest, which means you tend to get blocking features somewhere close to or to the north or northeast of the country, which can bring the winds in from the east, and that's always an uncertain wind direction. Now, with this sort of setup, we could either be dragging the air up from the south-southeast in that sort of direction, in which case it's going to be quite warm, or we could be bringing the air in from the east-northeast, in which case it is likely to be quite cool, actually, in that kind of scenario. Now, have a look at the temperature anomaly for the next month. That's coming out milder than average. So the model is predicting a milder than average month, but very similar to April, in that it's not a huge deviation, just around average, a little bit milder than average. Cold temperature anomalies up to the north and the northeast of Europe. So although we might get a milder than average month, it doesn't look like it's going to be a massive deviation again, maybe just half a degree or so above average. Precipitation is quite interesting, because you can see where that blocking feature is. It is clearly up to the northeast of the country. It's also in that sort of area. And actually, northwestern and northern parts of Scotland, close to that high pressure, are coming out a little bit drier than average. But for Ireland, England and Wales, actually coming out with quite a wet month. And most parts of France and Western Europe are also coming out quite wet too. So it does imply that we're going to have a more unsettled time with the low pressure out west bringing in the air, probably in that sort of direction. But at times we might influence winds from the east or northeast, which would be a little bit cooler. Beijing Climate Centre looks like this. These are 500 millibar heights broken down into 10-day periods. The first 10-day period taking us from the 1st through to the 10th of May. We find it very, very similar to the CFS V2. Above average heights to the north-northeast, below average heights down to the southwest, and the flow is going something a bit like that. So again, we could either be dragging up quite mild, if not fairly warm, southerly southeasterlies, or conversely, we could be bringing in fairly chilly east-northeasts. It's a subtle difference, but it does make a big difference, especially at this time of the year. Now, the second 10-day period, taking us from the 11th to the 20th of May, looks very unsettled. It looks like the westerlies do come back a little bit with this one. Below average heights almost centred over the country, and especially to the north of Scotland, which is bringing the winds in from the west. So that just looks genuinely unsettled there through the middle phase of May. You would expect quite a few rain bands to be coming in with that. And then the final 10-day period, going from the 21st through to the 30th of May. Again, it still looks quite unsettled. Below average heights up to the north, but heights are rising down to the south. Come over here, you can see heights are rising through central parts of Europe. And that would start to drag the air up from a more southerly direction. So that implies possibly still a little bit changeable conditions towards the end of May, but with temperatures rapidly getting a bit of a boost. The actual 30-day height anomaly looks like this. It is fairly unsettled, really. Below average heights for May is out to the west-southwest, and we bring the flow in rather like that. Quite a bit of blocking up to the north as well. The May temperature anomaly looks milder than average, so both models are seeing a milder than average month. The Beijing Climate Centre probably a little bit more so compared to the CFS. The CFS is very close to average. I think Beijing Climate Centre is going up to around a degree above average quite widely. And precipitation from the Beijing Climate Centre is coming out wetter than average. So they're both pretty much in agreement, really, in terms of way forward, just differ a little bit. It looks like complicated month's forecast. Looks like overall quite an unsettled month. I think they're probably going a bit over the top again, this above average precipitation signal. I suspect we will have probably a little bit more rain than we've had recently. That's not saying too much. Overall, I wouldn't expect a phenomenally wet month, but probably a little bit more unsettled compared to recently. Temperatures are interesting. I think Beijing Climate Centre is probably a bit over the top, actually, with the warmth. I think the CFS may be closer to this, which is, again, average to a little bit milder than average, but again, not that huge deviation that we had through February and March. So I don't think we're looking at 2-3 degrees above average. Let's say around half a degree to 1 degree above average once again. The last stages of the month possibly herald the chance of something a bit hotter coming along. Terry Scully, in his May forecast yesterday, pinpointed that chance of a bit of a heat wave and some thunder towards the latter part of May. I think the Beijing Climate Centre is close to doing that as well in that final 10-day period. So the hottest phase could well be late in the month, when we might get a few really quite warm days, if not hot days, before it all breaks down very quickly to thunderstorms. So a fairly interesting month, quite a complicated one, as always, for May. But the GalService.com May 2017 forecast is for, again, temperature slightly above average, but not as warm as earlier months this year. Precipitation, probably not all that far from average. I think we'll have a little bit more of an unsettled month, but I don't think we're going to get copious amounts of rain in the foreseeable future. So a little bit more unsettled, but probably still average, maybe even on the driving average side. That's GalService.com May 2017 forecast. Just a quick sneak peek at June. This is what CFS V2 is doing in June. And it's very similar to May in a lot of respects. Above average heights to the north and to the northeast, below average heights out to the west. And again, looks quite unsettled, probably doing something a bit like that with Jetstream. This trough close to west of us is probably bringing in bands of rain, so I would have thought chances are that could be a fairly unsettled month. But again, the way the ridge and the trough are aligned, probably not overly cool. I suspect temperatures will be reasonable. Okay, that's it for now. Come back later on for the look at the next week to 10 days. That's it for May forecast. Thanks for watching.